Okay, so we are live. As always, welcome to those watching us live, and for those who are watching on the replay, welcome. So my guest today is Aiza. I want to say Chung. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Yes, perfect. So I always say I don't introduce my guests because I think I would do a very bad job of it, and I think you would do a much better job. So if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, who you are, maybe some background and some context for the people listening or watching.
Yeah, so I'm Aiza. I call myself the brand chef, which is, I guess, my way of calling myself a brand designer. I run Studio Koya, which is a branding agency. Bit about me, I you might know from like the title of this. I am from Hong Kong. I grew up in Hong Kong. I moved to the UK for 20 years. And then nearly 2 years ago now, I moved to Seoul. So I've been traveling around as well as running my studio for 7 years. And if you haven't gleaned already, I call myself the chef. We're going to probably talk about food a lot because I love food. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me, and that's why baking is also in the title of this live.
Nice. I love it. Love it. Thank you very much. So just for some excuse me, some context, we spoke, I think it was last week, met you through LinkedIn, and we just seemed to hit it off. I just love the vibe that you have. It's just it's so refreshing and nice. It was just so easy to talk to you, but there's so much to you. I found you such an interesting person to talk to, especially someone that's traveled around, like you said, Hong Kong, UK, now Seoul. You've built your own company, and that's 7 years you've been doing that, which 7 years is a long time to be running a company. So I was very impressed. But there's so many different angles to you. It's not just one thing. And I think we spoke for quite a long time. I think
Yeah.
I think I think we said at one point I should have definitely been streaming that conversation. But you just take us on the journey of how you ended up starting your own company. It's a branding company. So yeah, just could you just talk us through that?
Yeah. So my journey, I guess I was never really a no, let me take that. My journey was a very straightforward journey. So coming from a Chinese background, a little bit of a stereotype, like, you go to school, do what you like, but then also think forward on like how you can make money and make a career out of it. So I loved art. I was always artsy. And then I was like, okay, well, how can I make this into something that I can do long term in a career? So I did art and design, and then I went to university in the UK for graphic communication. So I did that, and I did the whole being an in-house designer, and then I worked in a few agencies as well. And then fortunately and unfortunately, I got made redundant in 2018. And when that happened, I had already booked a holiday to Thailand. I had a 2 week stint in Thailand and a week in Hong Kong as well. So at the time, something in me was like, you know what? I'm just going to go on holiday and see what happens. So went on holiday, came back, and then I started freelancing. So I started with going in recruitment agencies, and then just started from there. I started to get work. At the same time, I was also speaking to people who I know in my network, like, do you have any design work for me? And to my surprise, I was like, oh, people actually, like, I do actually know people that might need my help. So that's kind of where it all started. And from then on, it's been nearly, well, 7 years, like end of October.
Okay, so almost an anniversary, right? So there's
Yes.
I think that's such an interesting part because I used to I come from corporate, and for a long time I like the idea of becoming a consultant or a freelancer, but I never made the move. And I think part of me was concerned that people wouldn't want what I had. Um, but how have you always engaged with people? People have always given you that feedback, or do you think it was a case that you were in the deep end anyway, and that's how you found out? How did it work for you?
So I've always had an entrepreneurial side to me. While I was working full time in agencies and stuff, I had side hustles. I sold prints on Etsy for fun. Met loads of lovely people. Like, was part of a community there as well. So I had dabbled in that already. Like, I always was quite multi-passionate. I liked doing stuff. I like creating crafts and doing other things and learning new things. So that was already there. And I had always thought that I want to start my own design business. But never that never came true until, like, basically the universe pushed me out. So it was like you said, I'm not a risk taker at all. So it took me a while. It was like 8 years, and also being made redundant, that was kind of like, well, here you go. And then I was like, took it as a sign, I guess, from the universe, and was like, well, what else can I do right now? Um, and if I'm in a stable job and can still be made redundant, why not try and do it myself? And I always say, being made redundant was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, it's it's really strange because I over my career, so I worked for one of the big banks for a long, long time, and I came to realize, so they went through quite a few redundancy cycles, um, and I realized then that basically we think that you have a job in a big organization and that your job is safe and secure, and it's such a false economy. You don't realize. And I always say that you can be the best person. I've worked with some amazing people. They were doing brilliant jobs. They were, you know, absolutely outstanding, and then the next day they were let go because they didn't figure on the spreadsheet, or it wasn't the direction. So um yeah, and sometimes when I speak to younger people trying to climb the corporate ladder, that they were very excited about taking one very small step. And I think it's good to go and get experience and enjoy all of that. But they, I see a lot of people investing themselves in corporates with an idea that that's their life, that's everything. And I think if people realized it's not actually as secure as we think it is, you know, it can be just tomorrow. Yes, fine, you might be paid out and you might get a nice severance package, etc. But ultimately, it's no more secure than starting your own thing. And on LinkedIn now, I see a lot of people building their own brands as themselves, and I really like that because oftentimes I've found, you know, certainly when I work with companies, or sorry, when I work for companies, I was always afraid to post anything because I thought it might be in contradiction to what the company I was working for at the time thought or felt. Um, so we don't actually really get to showcase ourselves. Um, but now I'm seeing a lot of people, most of the time, because they've started their own business, they're doing the branding, etc., and they're building on that. But I also see this emergence of people that are kind of in this in between. They're still employed, but they are putting themselves out there. They're networking. They're creating something. And when we say a brand, we often think it has to be like a specific label, but the brand is themselves. And for me, that feels more safe in a way to do that,
Mm.
because if anything happens to their corporate job, you know, they've got that network, that they've got that connection, which is what you did. You already had a network of people and you started working with them. So do you see that a lot with your clients, or are you working with companies? Are you working with individuals? What's the
I mostly work with solopreneurs and small companies. So it's definitely more what you're saying. It's, we all have personalities online, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever it may be. And we also understand the importance of connection now, because ultimately people buy from people, even when it's a brand. Like, if it's a smaller brand, like the clients that I work with, people are more aware of what's going on behind the scenes. Who are these people? They want to know, and information is out there as well. So we, as company owners, business owners, I guess it's safer to put ourselves out there than, for example, when you're in corporate. I think there's also, when you were talking about that, there's like a safety. You don't feel like you need to put yourself out there because you also feel like you're safe in your corporate job.
Mm.
And maybe because you're just in the job, in the work, like you don't have a reason to do that. And I think people are starting to shift towards like, well, either way, like we can learn from each other, we can connect with each other, whether or not it directly benefits me. Like it's not
Mhm.
a direct reciprocal thing anymore. And I think more and more people are seeing it and feeling it. So then that's why it's more and more people are doing it and connecting, compared to what LinkedIn was used for before. It was like, oh, we all worked in the same company, let's like connect, and then that's basically it. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it was a big organization chart, really. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Exactly.
it's also, I think, an interesting way to do things because, unlike your experience where you were kind of let go, I was also let go, and you kind of have to find your way. um, you can do this slowly, build your brand, connect with people, and that doesn't. You mentioned the word risk, and I think we can come onto that in a second, but actually just building slowly while you have a corporate job, I think is actually a smart decision. I think uh, there's no, you won't feel that you've got to find a job or do or build a business straight away. You can build those connections, and one of the great things I love about LinkedIn is that my world previously, when I worked for any of these companies, was literally in-house or anyone that we ever worked with. Whereas
Mm,
now I connect with people all around the world. I know you were in the UK, and if we were in the UK, I don't even know that our paths would have crossed because they're quite different worlds.
yeah.
Now I'm speaking to you. I know you're obviously in Korea, but I speak to people in Australia, the United States, all different than sort of the industries that I've ever been in, but we share often a common interest in terms of people helping, understanding new ideas and concepts. And I'm very grateful for the platform just to allow me to do that. And it's really opened up my world. And I was I was always a bad networker. So if there was a networking event, I would be the guy sticking by the bar, just hoping that no one would speak to me. Just absolutely, please don't ask me loads of questions. I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And unless I found someone or I was with someone that I know they would get my sole focus. However,
Yeah.
networking in the way that I like to do it and having these conversations and being able to share ideas in this way works perfectly well for me. And so it's such a is for something that I always disliked from a networking perspective. I absolutely love it done this way, done a
Yeah.
way that if I say feel in control, I can show up as I am at a time where it suits me. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's finding how to do it your way and figuring that bit out for you and whether or not it works for you. It's like when you were saying about, people who might want to start businesses and they can start networking while they're in full-time jobs and things like that. And I think the the world has opened up so much, even from when I first started. It's just a different world, different ball game now. It's in a way a lot easier, but also because it's more saturated, it is also harder. It's like the both. It comes with both things. Um,
Mm.
but I think like I was lucky in that I already had interest in running my own business. I was already running my own side business. So when I got tossed out into the world to go on my own, I wasn't as fearful or as scared. I saw it as an opportunity, and like, let's see what happens and see what can come from it. Rather than, I know some people who have been let go and they're like, I've never ever thought of, being a business owner. And yeah, so I don't know why at that point I just decided to, I'm just going to go on my own rather than spending time trying to find another full-time job. But also, I don't want to discount like the experience that I had in the full-time jobs, in working in businesses for other people, because I think that was also really, really good experience that I needed to build my craft, build my skills, like, learn how to speak to people, speak to clients, like that, those interpersonal skills as well as the design skills. So yeah, I think it's just, it's a journey.
Yeah. I was just thinking as you were speaking, so how long were you in the working for other people?
8 years, 8, 9 years.
Okay, so it's roughly an even balance almost,
Yeah, no,
will take a year.
getting
Um,
there.
what would you so in my own experience, so I want to say I've created this company, and I struggle to say the word company or business because for me, by definition, a business should generate money, and we can come in to talk about strategies and stuff like that in a second. But I am self-funding this. I think I mentioned it last time. So 3 years. So I'm not making a penny. I'm not doing anything unless something comes along that's so amazing that it's like a hell yes. I need to do this. Um, but on this journey, I have learned so much more about myself, what it takes for business, the things not to do, the things to do. And I've also found the need to push myself because I know it's only me. There's no one I'm really relying on. I've got a few people around me that I maybe bounce ideas off or express all my stresses with. But I learned a ton in my corporate world, but my learning curve in this world seems so much more. Was it the same for you, or how do you see it?
Not necessarily, because I had the side business. So
Mm,
I was already like figuring out, oh, you need to have a separate bank account, you need to set money aside, you need to like pay tax, blah 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 blah, all of that. So I had some sort of a concept of what running a business would look like. And I think what you touched on there about like calling yourself a business is, it's a little bit like, oh, does that come with certain expectations, certain things, like, certain standards, or what it should look like? And I would argue that you do have a business. Not all businesses make money from the get-go. A lot of businesses like borrow money and don't make anything for a long time. Like, we don't really think about it that way because we see people operating businesses and businesses doing stuff, right? So, and then we don't really think that, oh, actually there's so many businesses that run so many different ways. So I think that is also, something to note. But yeah, when I first started out on my own, there was a learning curve for sure. But I think the learning curve was, it's more about figuring out what I wanted and how I wanted to run my business, how I wanted to work. And it's what you're saying about like learning about yourself. And I could have and still could have a 9 to 5 job for myself in my own company, but I don't, because that's not how I want to work. And it's allowed me to move across the world. So it's a lot of discovery to running a business.
yeah. It's so there's 2 points on there, but the first one I think we there's often a lot of people that say they'd like to do their own business, but for me, it kind of splits down the middle. You've got the what you're good at, or whatever your product is, yourself or your service. It doesn't matter. It's that, and most people are very good at that. but along with that is this business, and that's the
Yep.
money, the reporting, the tax, the sleepless nights, and they don't always fit well together. And I often find that so again, I'm still not convinced I should be a business owner. I'm testing it out. I think let's see how it goes. But yeah, I don't think all creative people building this product, etc., should be in business, or if they do, maybe they should have a partner or someone that sort of balances that out, someone who likes the accounts or the things that they don't like doing. I think because really you have to wear many hats, right? And I know you can get some experts for doing your tax returns or whatever, but ultimately it's a big shift in responsibility, taking accountability for yourself. And there's a I'm talking about myself really, that you have to show up, you have to kick your own butt, and you have to be kind, but a bit ruthless on yourself sometimes. Just go, yeah, I don't feel like it today. Well, actually, I've got to sit in front of the computer. I've got to do that. And
Yeah, yeah,
there's a lot in it.
yeah. There's
So
many times I'm like, I don't want to do this part of it, but does my want of running a business and enjoyment from running a business and from what running a business can give me outweigh the things that I don't like doing? And for me, it's a yes.
yeah,
Right? Running a business gives me way more than if I don't run my own business.
yeah. What was the percentage? Would you say? What's the percentage of things that you don't like about running the business? Is it like 20/80 or?
I mean, there's the daily slog of actually doing things every day. And I don't think it's just business, right? Like, even when we're in a corporate job, we're like, well, I don't want to do that. Like, even if it is my job and it is what I want to do. And it's the same with business. And I don't think it just changes. Like sometimes I'm like, I love looking at my finances. I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like, what can I see from it? And sometimes I'm like, no, I am not touching anything to do with that. Hand it off to my accountant and that's it. So it just really, it's day to day. I think you were mentioning about like certain parts of business that some people might not want doing, or like they might want to find a partner doing it. And you think of big corporations, and it's kind of the same. Like you do have all the different moving parts, and you just find what you're good at, and they've managed to pull together people that can come together as a whole. But then they're not perfect either. They're still also changing and finding things and rejigging and reorganizing their structure too. And I think again, it's figuring out what you want it to do for you. Like obviously it's slightly different for business, but like you still, as a business owner, you need to figure out what you want your business to do for you. Otherwise it will feel like, oh, I need to wear all the hats. But then if you're wearing the hats for a reason, then it makes it feel a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah. It's I want to touch on the point you said about the type of business you've created. It sort of supports the way that you want to do business or your lifestyle, etc. Was that a conscious decision? Had you sat down, thought about it, planned it? And the reason I asked that is because I've seen quite a few stories now where people have started their own business and they really dislike their corporate job. And then they started their own business. But then I think about a year in, they found that they were working even harder in their own business, doing longer hours because they hadn't really given it a thought. And they have to go through this transition period where, oh, okay, we need to redefine how I work. So was your transition at the beginning, or did you go through that, sort of mid-journey?
It evolved over time. Like I didn't once I got made redundant, I didn't sit there and was like, oh, how do I want this to look exactly? And I think also it's a journey of discovery. Like you said, some people, yeah, they hated their corporate job, but not everyone can be business owners. Like it's hard. You there are so many different things that you need to juggle. but there are things that you can control. So, when I first started, like I said, I was freelancing, I was working via recruitment agencies, but then I started slowly getting my own clients. And then I'm like, okay, now what do I want it to look like? And I'm still going through that now, 7 years in. I'm like, okay, so I want to run projects a certain way. How do I do that? How do I get my clients to see that this is beneficial to them versus what they're used to? For example, like putting someone on a designer on a retainer, and they get certain amount of days a month. Like, that's not how I want to work. And I figured that out. Like, I did have those types of clients earlier on, did those, figured out, not quite what I wanted to do, but I will do it to try it. And then kind of started to shift, started to figure out, started to try and move my business towards a different direction, so that I can work the way I enjoy working, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And did that mean you had to let clients go, or you transitioned them into this new way of working?
It's always a transition. So, some was like, well, we don't need to work. We don't have the design work anymore. So then they transitioned out. So then it was like, okay, when they needed me back, I might not be, I might do things slightly differently, or certain things that I've learned. Like, I sometimes, most of the time, I take a deposit up front now, just to protect myself. Little things like that you learn along the way through trial and error, and you're just basically trying to steer your business in the correct direction. Also, like, what I need is different now. Like, I am in a different country. It's when I was in the UK when I first started, it was like, yeah, I'm fine to travel in to work in your company and embed in there. But then I figured out, well, actually, I liked being able to work from anywhere. Started traveling a little bit, like, that then changed the type of clients that I would work with, because I'm like, well, actually, I can only work remotely. So, to answer your question, there was no like, this is how I want it to look exactly, and then I'm planning to get there in that way, even though that would be ideal. But the path is just always, you never know where it's going to take you, even though you're trying to make informed decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, like you said, the trial and error, does this work for me? How do I want this to be? And so I've often thought about things being correct or incorrect, or success or failure. And I listened to this guy, Joe Hudson. I don't know if you've ever come across him. He's in the US, but I like the way he talks about things, and he often comes up with these ideas of experimenting. Because I always thought if I did something, I had to commit to it, and that was, it was a binary outcome, success or not. And but actually playing with that made it a lot more fun. And it was, the experimenting was, okay, the outcome doesn't need to be, yes, this is successful. The outcome just needs to be that I learned something. And so that
Yeah.
took the sting out of things. And even if there's a financial cost, and money is such a big thing around business, and certainly in the corporate space, I remember whenever there was a loss in some way, there was an error, it was very much like, oof, this is punishment time. People are pointing fingers, and heads are
Yeah.
rolling, and they want a scapegoat. They want a name on a piece of paper who this came down to.
Yeah.
And the sad thing for that is that it does so much damage to people trying and creating, and pushing outside of what they would normally do. And I think if you build a culture like that, then people don't try. They just come and they do what you tell them to do. And that might
Yeah.
seem okay on the surface, but I think so many companies lose out because people are afraid to try. And I think for me, this idea of experiment is so freeing, so enjoyable. And this, it's like I'm a child again. I get to play, and there's no one telling me that it's
Yeah.
a bad thing. And I would love to see more companies embrace it, and rather than this pass fail type
Yeah,
of
I mean,
thing.
that's like, yeah, that's something definitely that I had to overcome, right? Like coming from you know, I'm stereotyping myself now, like Chinese background. It's like, oh, you need to get good grades, to climb the corporate ladder, all of that. And then I realized, like you said, it's not safe. Like I still got made redundant. It wasn't as safe as I thought it was going to be. And then, yeah, I think experiment. If you don't experiment, you'll get stuck in your ways, and you won't be able to see if there's anything that might be better on the other side. Like the great thing about running your own business is that you can make those types of calls, those types of decisions. Like that's one of the big perks of running your own business. Um, and I certainly have fun and had fun doing it. Like it's not like it's all, you know, what's the phrase I'm looking for? It's not like it's all amazing all the time when you experiment. I think the key, which is a learning that I've had recently, is that you need to evaluate your experiments, because otherwise you're just head down going trying something, and then what happened to me was that I was just like, oh, it's not working, it's not working. And then it was actually affecting how I was seeing myself in the business. It's like, why am I not doing this? Why is it not working? Like, why don't I like doing this? Like, I'm just hiding now. So being able to experiment but also evaluate your experiments is such a big thing as well, because otherwise you won't know whether or not it's good or not for you.
Yeah, and I think I think that takes some skill to be aware of what's going on
Yeah.
and to put that sort of that review point and just say, okay, I'm going to test it after a week. So I've recently, so I use a scheduler just to have uh, for people to book a meeting so that maybe they're potentially lives. And I was struggling with the scheduler that I was using because it had to go through different calendars. I won't bore you with
Right.
all the technical side of it. But what was happening, and there was a couple of conflicts. There was like a personal thing going on, and then someone was booking a meeting, and I had to rearrange it. And that happened about 3 or 4 times, which scheduling a meeting is hard enough just to find, you know, especially if someone's in a different time zone, that conversation of, well, what time is it
Yeah.
there? It's just hard
Yeah.
enough. And to take all that sting out, I had this scheduler, then that wasn't working. And I was trying to find a product to replace it that simplified everything. And in the end, I picked 2 products and I tested them side by side. But the problem was I was so into the detail, I got lost of actually what it is that I wanted to achieve. And uh, I wasn't making progress on either of them. I was going, yeah, I'll do this on here, and then I'll do this on here. And I swear to you, I've burnt about a month worth of brain cells and
Yeah.
time. And at the end of it, I was like, and I had this realization. I was just like, what have I done? What was I actually here to achieve? And
Yeah.
I come from a project world, so I used to work in projects towards the end of my career. So, like all of this stuff is, you would start out and say, "What is it that you want? Like, what do you want to achieve? What's your acceptance criteria?" A whole load of stuff. I barely did any of that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh, come on, Colin." You're like, but uh, to be honest, I found it fun. I found it very reflective of, um, okay, I still learnt from that experience.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to bumble your way through. Like, okay,
Yeah.
yes, we can have our structures and like the best case scenario of how to do things, and here's how you test it. And then, but life happens, you know, the tech doesn't work, or you know, the system breaks down, and you're just like, oh crap, now what? You just keep going. You just have to get through it. Um, and like you said, you probably learned a lot about the products itself, and maybe you found something that you thought was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like I was so this is very random. I was writing today with my pen, and I was writing, and I have this fascination of like this satisfaction of finishing the ink in a pen when the ink runs out. And I was writing and writing and writing, and I was like, huh, I wonder how the ink, like I wonder if this gel bit is slightly denser than the ink itself so that it can push down the ink in the pen so it only flows one way and doesn't go this. I went down a bit of a like thought experiment rabbit hole thing, and I was like, maybe it is that. Like, and that was just a little fascinating, like, wonder how it works kind of moment for me earlier. That has like nothing to do with what I'm doing, but also I found a bit of joy like thinking about it. I was like, that's kind of cool as well to figure out pens work.
I was thinking
Just
when
a
you were
little
saying that.
story for you.
No, it's good. It's because oftentimes I think this idea that you have to motivate yourself. So it sounds. Please correct me if I'm wrong. You're quite self-motivated in terms of you've started your own sort of several little businesses or side hustles or whatever you want to call them. There must be something driving you to do that. And whereas sometimes I have put many distractions in the way of doing something, especially if I know that thing is admin, because there's something just it's the biggest turn off in my life. If I see a page of A4 that I've got to read and interpret, especially if it's in lawyer speak, it's really something that I will put anything in the way of it, any like horrendous tasks in front of it so I don't have to do that thing. But
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you stay motivated? Because like you say, it's okay you've had this conversation about a pen, but you go, "Oh, I've lost an hour." Like,
Well,
what is it?
yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I am distracted all the time. Like, okay, big picture, you see, I run like side hustles, I run my own business, but I distract myself all the time. There's things that I don't want to do, right? Like, I'm always like, oh, maybe there's some food I need to make, or like, what's in the fridge, even though I know what's in the fridge. It's like, oh, maybe I can go out and get a cup of tea somewhere just so that I can not do, even if I'm doing sometimes I do busy work as
Mhm.
well, and I'm trying to work harder to recognize it. And I know I do this, but I am an organizer. I like seeing things in place, but I use that to feel like I'm doing something when it's not the thing that's gonna push me towards what I want to do and like my goals and like how I want to run my business. It's like I feel like I'm doing something, but am I really? It's
Yeah.
what you were saying. So, it comes in and in different ways, and it's more about recognizing it, what you can learn from it, like you said, and you know, trying to change it up next time. Maybe you do it for less amount of time, or you do it slightly differently so it's somewhat productive. Like I was writing when I was using my pen, so I was still productive, I guess. And also sometimes I guess you do need the downtime to help yourself think a little bit. I think sometimes we keep so busy and we try and like fill our days up with things, and we're doing things and so that we can feel good. Like for me, I'm like, oh, I want to feel productive all the time. But sometimes it's just like I need to sit with something to understand whether or not it's doing anything for me.
Yeah. That's that's an amazing uh I want to say sentence statement, the whole thing that you've just said, because first of all, what I take from that is that you are human, and I love that about it because you're very honest about it. And I don't want to make this about beating up the corporate world, but I do believe that. Let's just talk about me. So I always thought that my boss was always going to look at me. It didn't matter what boss it was. So I was always pretending to be busy, and I think that exists all that over.
Mm,
So you have this window of 9 to 5. Let's say I know different countries work differently, and the reality is that towards the end of the day or a Friday afternoon, productivity just goes out the window. We're just pretending and stuff like that. And but we're in an office environment, so we feel that we have to be that certain way. Um, I I feel if we trusted people more to just say, look, if you don't feel productive, go and do something else. But we don't do
yeah.
that. We kind of just keep people in that space. Now, the luxury that I have here is that even if I'm not being productive, what you would sort of say, oh, okay, I'm not sitting, typing, or doing something. Often my brain's thinking about something, but I can go and do a million things. And I can have that one thought. And oftentimes, the freedom of going and doing something unproductive or unrelated really brings that one thought that can bypass so much else. You know, I might have been thinking
Yeah.
about, oh, I've got to write 10 bits of content or something like that. And then I go, oh, I've got one thread of a content that could last me 10 days and it's an idea. And you go, oh, wow, it's so much simpler. And because, yeah, from the outside, it looks like you're not being productive. But actually I am. And I always say this, I have a lot of thoughts in the shower. It's just because in the shower, I can't really distract myself with any gadgets or information. I'm just there, and I just
Yeah.
and then I start. Oftentimes, in preparation for these lives, I think about how the conversation is going to go, what sort of questions. Now, I might have given that some thought over the however long, let's say a week or whatever, but just before, I let my mind wander and think, oh, okay, that's interesting for me, and just and it's like this playful time in my brain and just goes, oh, that's interesting. And it just, and it, you would think, oh, the shower, you're having a shower and you get out, and, but it's not, it's actually prep work for me in a weird way.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we never associate that with a working world, you know, in terms of corporate.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I mean, when I was kind of semi still like so when I was like embedded into my clients' companies and stuff, the the one thing that COVID did was the good thing, I guess, was like everything was brought online, right? But I did walking meetings. So I was out and about while we were chatting, like because we had I think what were they called? Like, you know, the morning retro, morning whatever. The first thing, like every day we'd have a meeting, but it was like 15 minutes catch up to see where we're at the project on the project. But it really helped just being outside, and then you're also talking at the same time, listening and talking. And there's just something about that also that just helps. I don't know, you absorb stuff around you, or the movement does something. Um, and it just, yeah, I guess it's like feeding your brain
Mm,
somehow when you're not trying to force yourself to be and do things a certain way. I mean, it's the same with design. It's like when I'm doing design, it's just like sometimes you sit in front of a computer and it's just like, whew, amazing, like done. And then sometimes you're like, it's not coming. Like I'm just moving things around and it's really not happening right now. And then I tend to go and find some food or like go and do the dishes or something. And then I
yeah,
come back and I'm like, okay, like there's a reset here. And then you can come back with fresh eyes on something.
yeah.
So yeah.
How do you so do you have a feeling when something is good in terms? So I, I'm creative in different ways, not in a design necessary way, but as you were speaking, you say, "Oh, sometimes things just flow," and absolutely. Do you feel that in your body that the design is right? Is it how does that how do you determine what's good and what's not? Yeah.
I think it's learned over
Okay.
time. Like I've been doing this a long time. So when you see something and you're like, oh, okay, I can see, you know, it's like I can geek out now. I'm like, okay, so the spacing between like our names on the screen are equal. So, you know, there's a balance there. And like, okay, like the color, the black against the yellow is, you know, it's there's a good enough contrast so we can read it. Like there's
Mm,
certain rules like that, like, you know, you need to be able to see what you're trying to say. But you know, there's also design that's more abstract and it's trying to evoke a feeling. So it really depends on, again, it's like what is it for? And over time you kind of develop that muscle of seeing things that work or don't work. And I think the thing that I was talking about, whether sometimes I'm like, oh, it's just not working. It's like you think something will work in your brain, and like getting it out is not the same. So it's just trying to find that when I'm doing the work And you know, when you see it, it's like, okay, yeah, cool, like that works now, versus, you know, 20 minutes ago when I was like, oh, I don't even know what's going on, kind of thing. And sometimes it's not a big, like, oh, I need to do 360. It's just like, I just need to change it slightly, and I guess analyze what's not working about it and try and figure it out that way. Sometimes it's intuition, sometimes it is like the skill of like analytical skill of figuring it out.
Yeah. So I think, as we've talked about, it's like this experimenting, doing the actual work. It seems oftentimes it's useful to zoom in and then zoom out at different points. So, when you're doing the work, okay, zoom in, okay, do it. But sometimes, for me, even this scheduler thing that I got so caught into the stuff, and I was just like, I was really into it, and I was like, yeah, but if you let it go, it's been causing you problem. But zoom out, and I think the challenge with all of that is when you're on your own, you don't have someone to sort of tap you on the shoulder and go, why don't you take a break? Like, and that, so you have to be quite self-aware in terms
Yeah,
of, okay,
yeah,
and it doesn't happen instantly. It might take you a little while to realize, okay, I'm too much into the detail. I need to take a break. I need to take a pause or go and do something different. But
yeah,
it's that that ability to switch between the two, um, and know that that's actually productive. Like you said, you organize things, and we talked about your board behind it. I loved it. It
yeah,
just made me feel that you knew exactly what was going on. And I do the same. I'm trying to find solutions for stuff, and I seem to make it's being busy or trying to look productive, and actually it's not moving me towards the task. And I
yeah.
think sometimes I secretly know it, but I'm still carrying on, and I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
not admitting it to
yeah,
myself.
yeah, definitely. I call it procrast tweaking. So I always tweak stuff, right? Like I'm like, oh, my system, oh, this productivity thing, like this database in Notion isn't quite working for me. And then I tweak things in there. And I'm like, but this isn't really doing anything that I'm supposed to be doing. I'm just procrastinating for the sake of it because it can be a little bit better. So that's part of it. And when you were talking about it, I was also thinking like there's different, it manifests and comes out in different places, I guess, for different people and in different parts of their lives. So, for when I'm working with my clients on the branding projects, I'm always like, we start zoom out. I need to understand your business and figure out what you want from this. Otherwise, I can't design well because I don't know what you want out of this. So, it's like the zooming out, helping them zoom out so that I can see. And then when I zoom in and start doing the design, I always, when I try and get feedback from them, I zoom back out and say, okay, well, this is designed in this way because we discussed the bigger picture. This is what we wanted from it. So does this do that? And it's always for me in that is like I found a structure, I found a system that worked for the way I do branding, the way I run my sprints. It's like, yes, that's how we get the best out of the client and myself. And I think it's the same for everything. Like there's obviously going to be a flex within it. Sometimes it works better than other times, depending on the person, depending on the company, depending on the timing. But I think it's the same when you were saying like, oh, how we don't know how to zoom back
Mm,
out. Sometimes we just need that system or like that framework so that we can be like, you know what, step back, have a look. And that's with business as well. When we were talking about, you don't know whether or not you're just in the weeds versus what you want to do. How do you find the direction? And yeah, like, I mean, in that sense, like I was saying earlier, I was banging my head against the wall for like 6 months, for a while, and then I didn't zoom back out. I couldn't get out of the weeds. And then more recently, I was like, oh, okay, that's what I needed. And I would have liked to do it 3 months earlier than I did, but
mm.
at the same time, I also learned a lot, and I might hopefully do it differently when it happens again, and it'll probably manifest in a different way. So we'll see.
Yeah. I'm wondering, so I again, there's no clients in my business or anything like that. Technically, you're my client. I'm well, actually, you're being very kind to spare your time to come and have this conversation. But do you ever have situations where you have an initial discussion with a client and then you don't work with them because they don't want to follow your system?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Some people are like, I can't do it that fast, because I do my sprints in 7 days,
Okay.
and that's fair enough. Some people don't work that way. My argument from my side is, as business owners, a lot of times you go with your gut. Also, you just need to get on with running your business. Why are we spending, 6 months to a year trying to figure out your brand when you can run your business and figure out your brand? A lot of times people come to me, a few years in, 5 years in, that kind of thing, because they've already done the work on figuring out what they want their business to look like or where they've been. And a lot of times it's like, we just need that push and we need that branding to almost complete the picture and put them onto like showing off who they are now. So that's where I see it. And yeah. So there are people that are like, I can't work that way. There's people that I'm like, you're not ready yet. Like, just go do your thing until you figure it out, and then you can. Because otherwise the branding won't work. Again, like we said, like, it needs to do something for your business. Everything you do, it needs to do something either for your business or for yourself, whatever lens you want to look at it through. And it's the same with branding. It's a tool to do something for you. It's to help change your client's perception of who you are. Like, we're doing this for a reason. Like, you say, oh, and it's hard to call yourself a business, but we're doing this because there's a way that you want to come across and you want to showcase who you are as a business, right? I'm guessing in personal life you wouldn't be sitting on a live chatting to your friends and broadcasting it out to the world. So it's like it's things you do or you're doing for a reason, and that's the same. And I try to figure that out with my clients before we work together, just to make sure we're on the same page. We know what goals we're trying to reach because we want it to work. Because otherwise they're going to come back to me and be like, Aiza, this is not working. Like, I don't like my branding. What did you do? Right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's for me, it's very interesting. I grew up always avoiding rejection, and I think that's probably quite the same for a lot of people. But ever since I've been doing these lives, I really don't have that. I kind of just walk into it and just ask people if they would like to do a live, and we have a chat, and if it makes sense, then we do a live. But I really don't. I don't know what happened, and it's not that I can say I need to generate money, because there's no money driver behind these conversations. It's just, okay, if it works, it works. If it doesn't, and people say, no, that's not for me, or later on. But the reality is, most people that I ask, they want to have a conversation. It's a weird dynamic, because I'm 47 now, and I would say 47 years I've avoided rejection, and now I'm sort of plowing straight into it, and it's really not as painful as I thought. And I think maybe because I separated the rejection against who I am, and just go, yeah, absolutely, it might not be right for you. And yes, I do have a lot of contacts, and I do get to speak to people, but it's not just a volume business. It's just, okay, absolutely, if it's not right and it doesn't work for you, I wouldn't want anyone to come on camera that didn't want to do it or it wasn't right for them.
That's the thing. That's the key, right? It's more about them than it is about you. And also, you want them to want to do it. Otherwise, it's going to be really difficult for you to have a nice conversation with someone. And like you said, a lot of times people want to do things. Like, when the opportunity comes up, it's like, yeah, why not, right? That's how I feel anyway.
Yeah. My next question. So you're very self-aware, or you're learning about yourself as you go along, trial and error. Do do you have like a business coach or anyone coaching you at all, or do you just look to do it yourself?
I have coaches. I've invested in coaches in like a group program and masterminds in the past. I
Okay.
change it up sometimes. It depends on what I want in my business, what I want to work on as well. Um, I think so. I have quite a lot of business friends that I can also bounce ideas off of as well. It's like, am I doing like what am I doing? Like, is this even does this even make sense? And like, I have those types of relationships that really help in terms of like running a business. So it's not just me. It's realization through people. I have a partner who he he's very analytical, questions a lot of things, and sometimes I'm like, whoa, 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 like stop. I don't want to think about it, but at the same time, it pushes me, and like because I see it in him, in the things he does, it's like okay, I can think about my life and my work and my business in that sense and ask those questions as well and not have expectations of what it should be. I think I'm very much the, oh, my business should look this way. I should be acting this way. I should like build it this direction or otherwise what? Like that's the thing. Now I'm like, but otherwise what?
Yeah.
There's not really a like what's the negative to it? There's not really a
Yeah.
negative. It's just you'll have an answer, whatever it may be. And then it's up to me to figure out whether or not I can use it, whether or not it's good or bad, or if I need to change. Like, yeah. So
I
I was like you. I was like, I don't like I still don't like rejection. But at the same time, I was like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm trying to tell myself, like, put yourself out there. It doesn't matter. Like, see what happens. And then I try and come to things from that kind of
yeah.
space, from that I don't know what the word is, but yeah, from that angle.
It's I love that you've got these people around you, um, that you use masterminds, because I think so. I've been in a few courses over the years. Some of them were around marketing and coaching, and I think one of those things is that community side of things, just to sort of talk about stuff. And I think sometimes it's useful just to know that you're not alone. You're not like people
Yeah.
are, going through similar stuff. And then
Yeah.
I I also like to learn from other people. I like to go, "Oh, that's working for you. Oh, okay." Like even like systems and tech and stuff. I mean, you showed me that your keyboard earlier, and I don't know if you want to
Yes.
hold it up for the
I'm gonna
camera.
show it off.
Yeah, yeah,
I
little
love my
breads.
keyboard.
Yeah,
It's bread themed. It's very on brand
yeah.
with my food theme.
And
I love
but
it. It's
I
very
love
loud.
yeah, I love listening and understanding what's going on and working for other people, and I just because you go, oh, maybe I can bring that into my world. I also understand there is this fine line. So um, if you have too much of an open mind, you allow other people's opinions to influence what you're trying to create. And they, even with the best intentions, those people around you might come with their own perceptions or preconceived ideas. And,
Yeah.
I, I often say, people project all over us all the time. I project on other people. It's not a nasty thing, but based on my version of the world, what I see through my eyes and how my experiences have been. And so there are points where I've had conversations with people, and in the infancy of this business, so I'm going to call it a business now because you've I really want
Yes.
to
You have a
yeah.
bit.
And and then like people were saying something, and being open minded, and you can look at stuff, and social media is one of those things where they go, oh yeah, you've got to follow this 5-step process to do this or whatever. It can be very difficult because you can be influenced quite heavily, especially if you're feeling a bit lost or you can't see the traction in the business. But there is this part where you go, and it happened to me recently. Someone was giving me some great advice, but they didn't really understand me, and I was able to go, "Oh yeah, that's great," and I was able to filter, and I've very rarely done that before because I've always seen it as like maybe a personal attack or something like that. But
Yes, yeah,
I kind of know what I want the business to be. I know what I almost don't want it to be. And then this idea, and I was like, okay, so let's say it was 10 different ideas. They were like raindrops. I only let the ones in that I felt made sense. And the other ones, I didn't, I was grateful for the feedback. I was grateful for that. But I realized that that person doesn't fully understand me or what I'm trying to achieve because they weren't really asking me questions. They were kind of just projecting stuff that they'd
yeah,
learned or
yeah. This
felt.
is
So
what worked for me, or like this is what I think you should be doing. This is how it's been done before. Um, yeah, I mean that's a great realization, and that was kind of what I was talking about earlier about like knowing what you want for your business, because businesses can look so many different ways. And there's no
yeah,
right answer, especially, there's so much change going on, like technology and all of that. It's like, do it however you want, do it your way, and help you get to how you want to do things. And I think that's the key there. And it's hard to be able to realize those things that you're absorbing, whether or not it's right for you. And it's you'll find this all the time, like throughout how many years that you keep running your business. I'm 7 years in and I still have that. But there's certain things that I'm like, well, no, I know that that's not how I want to do things, even if it works for someone else. It's just not for me. And then there are certain things that you're like, well, it's worth a try, right? And then it comes back to whether or not you revisit it and like evaluate whether or not it's worked for you. And that's been my learning. And I think it's only certain parts of my business, or it's like that that comes in, and then
mhm,
certain parts I'm like, yeah, no, I know what I'm doing here, do not bother me there. Like, I don't need any advice on that side of things. And also, if you don't test it, if you don't try it, you won't know if it's good or not for you. Obviously you can make assumptions and links and stuff. But if you're not doing anything, sometimes it's like, well, why not try it and see? Because it might surprise you. And it comes back down to what you said. You don't have to just commit and then do it forever. You can
yeah,
commit, try it out. Okay, maybe, yeah, I kind of like it. It's like eating. It's like, taste this new thing. I like it. I might not come back and eat it again, but I've tried it, and that's how I feel about this certain thing.
yeah, yeah. I think I think it can be enjoyable to try these things out, and uh,
Yeah,
again, you have that sense of okay, yeah, don't cross this line because I'm not interested. I want it to be this way, and I think if you can hold, you have those ideas or those concepts while still remaining open minded, and I think that's that nice balance that you can have.
yeah,
Can I ask you about goals? Because I am exceedingly difficult at setting goals, and everyone says set goals, do this, etc. So, if you'd have seen me 4 or 5 years ago, my goal would have been yes, I need to make 100,000, let's say pounds or euros a month, based on nothing, based on social media, based on
yeah. Based on what
uh,
people say,
yeah, exactly.
I
Which
need
do
10K
I?
months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I mean, I've signed up for all of it. I've absolutely signed up for all of it. But I I realise I don't have any goals, um,
Hmm.
other than so the only commitment I've made is that I do 2 LinkedIn lives a week for a year. That's the only thing I've set, and that gives me enough, that gives me a duration, that gives
Hmm.
me a discipline, and it gives me accountability. But otherwise, there's nothing else in it. But how people say goals are useful, but my problem was I always just took other people's goals and tried to rephrase it, but it was still their goals. So, do you have
Yeah.
goals? Do you set those?
So I've been thinking about it a lot lately. And when you were talking about it, I was thinking, yeah, I do have goals. I have client goals, like how many clients I want to sign. I have revenue goals, and there's different ways of calculating that. Like But it again comes down to what's important to you, right? Like, okay, my family needs this amount to live. So that is a goal that I need to reach, right? In terms of money wise, like you saying, oh, 100K, but it's like, do you need 100K? Or are you just putting pressure on yourself to make 100K? Or do you need 200K that you didn't realize that you needed because, I don't know, you want to live a certain type of lifestyle? And it's figuring those things out for yourself, and then you can have those hard goals. Now, I've also been thinking a lot about, I guess, softer goals, if you want to call it that, but like less tangible goals. When you were talking about it, and I was thinking, well, you do have a goal, and your goal is by the end of your time frame while you're doing this, and you're setting yourself actionable goals, right? Like your input goals are 2 lives, and like speaking to people, and then a timeline, a deadline. And then your goal is to, by then, understand what you want for yourself. That is a
Mm.
goal. How is that not a goal?
Yeah.
Because you've already set your goal.
Yeah. It's
It's just not your typical, oh, a business needs to make a certain amount of money, or like it needs to, I want to, I don't know, make it look this way. Like figuring something out is also, it also can be a goal, I guess, is what my perspective on what you've just said, that, you know, when you ask that question.
Yeah, because it seems thank you. I think oftentimes, and it actually links up with something um, you were talking about earlier about logos and brands. Because I've worked, so again, I've signed up for courses where people want to create their own business, teaching, coaching, whatever. And people get very obsessed about creating a logo and business cards, and
Yeah.
uh, and I was one of those people. So whatever I'm saying, I've done it. So that's why I'm saying. But I've been around a lot of people, and some I do say to people, well, maybe you should start your own business, and they go, well, I'd need a website, I need a logo, I'd need business cards, and you don't actually need any of those in the beginning. And it's actually doing the journey itself reveals a lot of these things. Like you said, you know, the company that comes to you and they know who they are and they just need that last piece to wrap it all up. And yet we often put the branding and everything before everything else. And that I believe that often stops a lot of people that really want to start a business, because they think that. And I'd like to just sort of take that myth away. And you know, if you're stuck on that, then there's a reason you're stuck on it. Either you're using it as an excuse not to do the thing, or
Yeah.
then it's not the right time. Just do the thing and then prove that and find if
Yeah.
that's okay, because then that will naturally come. Or there'll be a stress point where you go, absolutely, I'm talking to 200 people and my brand is a white piece of paper. That's not a brand. That's so.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, a brand is what other people perceive you to be, right?
Mm,
Whether or not you have a logo or not. And it comes back down to what we were saying, you know, are you calling yourself a business? And then when people call themselves a business, there's a lot of shoulds. I should have a logo. I should have a website. I should be doing this. I should be doing it this way. I think now, because of technology, because of social media, we're breaking down a lot of those walls anyway, because the way brands show up in front of people is very different. Um, so I do understand why people would say, well, I do want a logo. It also really depends on your business, right? Like if you are front facing from the start, if you're a product based business, for example, and you want, you know, your products to be looked at in a certain light, you know, if you're a luxury wellness brand, then yeah, it probably makes sense for you to have a logo, have brand, have websites, you know, it needs to be incorporated into that initial experience so that people can feel that way about you right from the start. So there are different scenarios for whether or not you need branding straight from the get-go. Now, also, and also, branding, so a brand is how people perceive you. Branding is the thing that helps influence how people perceive you, right? That's what we do it for. And when your business evolves, so should your branding. Like I was a designer. Well, I am a designer. When I first started, I had a logo. I had, branding that looked objectively, it looked good, but it wasn't saying what I wanted it to say, which is why I rebranded. So, take with that what you will. It's like, yeah, you start with a brand, but it's like, we need to, again, see whether or not it's working for you. We need to evaluate. Sometimes it's like, well, no, you just keep going with what you had in the beginning because it's working. Why are we changing this if we don't need to? And then, like I said, sometimes you do need a brand from the start. It really depends on your company. It depends how you want to approach it. It depends on how you want to build it and how you want to come across, and what your path is. And different businesses have different types of paths.
Love it. I think that's great. I never really thought about it that way, so it's great that you share that perspective, because I love these conversations where I go into it with something in mind, and then someone says something, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, if you're this type, yes, maybe you need a logo or a brand, etc. So thank you very much. That's I think that's
from that
I'm very conscious.
perspective, it's like, how do we want to look at it with everything, not just branding, but like, I guess when you're in that world, it's like, well, you don't have to look at it one way. There are lots of different ways, lots of justifications that you can do, and it's like, what works for you at this moment in time with what you're doing, and then you make an informed decision from that.
Yeah. I think so I'm going to wrap it up because I'm conscious of time, but I think this really, you said something earlier about it's not really business to business, it's sort of human to human, and it's someone said that to me the other day on the live, and I really agree with it. And we have this idea that we can't have fun. Like, professionalism has to be strict and hard, and especially coming from the finance world that I do, it's all this, okay, everything has to be rigid and secure. And I believe that people actually want to buy from people. They want not personality, not alter egos or anything. I'm sure that's part of it, but actually people that are very honest, very clear, very open, but know their stuff. And you embody that for me. You really, ever since we spoke last week, you've just been very open-minded. You're very clear on so much. You're also very open that you know that you haven't got it all figured out. You beat yourself up, but not too much. And I love it. And it's been a real pleasure for me. And I think, it's been very enlightening, such an enjoyable conversation. So I think you have a lot to offer many people.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're very good at what you do, but it's also what you bring on top of that. So I just want to
thank you so much. Yeah, it was just great to chat. Like, I love chatting about anything, everything. So yeah, definitely. And thank you for inviting me to do this live. It's been great.
Brilliant. Okay. So in terms of people, hopefully they're watching this, they want to reach out to you. So I found you on LinkedIn. Is that the best place, or is there a website, or where's the best place?
Yeah, LinkedIn, Aiza Chung, that's me. I think I'm the only one on there.
Okay.
But yeah, and then Studio Koya for everything else. That's my business. So that's
Okay.
my front facing there. But yeah, LinkedIn is great, and you can find all the information about me there, I guess.
Perfect. Because what I do is I repost this afterwards, and I just connect your name so people can find you.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit easier,
Perfect.
but if you say there's only one of you, then should be easier. But
hopefully, fingers crossed. Oh, quick story before we go. Someone once had a parcel of mine delivered to their house because they left a number off the parcel.
Okay.
And so it went down the road, like, I think it was like 100 doors down. And they messaged me on Facebook and was like, I think I have your parcel. You're the only Aiza Chung, and you also live in London. Is this you? And I'm just like, okay, maybe. I'm like,
so
I'm anonymous, but not, I guess.
Yeah,
it's hilarious.
it's either a blessing or a curse. I'm not sure. So
yeah, exactly. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
So that's me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your time, for showing up for me and for
You.
opening my mind to new ideas and concepts. So yeah,
Yeah,
um,
thanks for the
you,
chat. I love talking.
yeah,
So, yeah,
you
it's
you
great.
feel
Great.
like definitely a round two person in my mind because maybe we talk about some food as well. So yeah,
Yeah, we
throw
can
that
talk
in
more
next
about
time.
food next time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fantastic. But for
cool.
today,
Okay,
thank you
great.
so much. I really, really had a great time. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Bye.